Welcome! Today we are paying a special tribute to our veterans. I hope the show moves you as much as it did for me. Welcome to People, Places and Things with Celine. My name is Celine Desrosiers. Today I will be interviewing two American heroes, both veterans. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Phil Jacobs, who is a World War II veteran, and Joe Byron, who is a veteran era for Vietnam. He is also the founder of Honor Flight New England. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I met Phil a few years ago.
That's right.
We are neighbors, and I'll let you talk about that, Phil. How did we meet?
Essentially, Celine moved into our neighborhood several years ago and has been kind of a highlight in our neighborhood. We met on occasion. She does a lot of walking. I don't do a lot of walking, unfortunately. But after this flight, we did get together quite often because I felt that this was a magnificent opportunity for her and her position as in the television industry to put on a program for this particular enterprise. And we contacted each other and talked over a period of a year, and fortunately is now coming to fruition, which I'm very happy for.
Well, I have to say that it's because of you, Phil, that this show is made possible today. You are the one who talked to me about it, that gave me the name of Joe and how to contact him, and made it for today. So I thank you very much for that.
Well, it's not a thank you, really. My program right now is to get this on the ground so that Joe will benefit. Honor Flight will benefit from this particular program, and that's why I'm here today, really.
Thank you. Joe, would you please give us a little background of how it was, and then we'll go on to explaining to our audience what Honor Flight is. What is your background, your life?
I'm a retired police officer from Manchester, and I was there for 23 and a half years, and I went from there to the sheriff's office and then up to the attorney general's office as an investigator. And my specialty is investigating crimes against our senior population.
And how was the Honor Flight created? What brought you to fund this nonprofit organization program?
Well, in my last 4 years in Manchester, I investigated the crimes against our senior population. In order to build a rapport with them, I walked in the mall. And we know that about 84% of our senior population does not report crimes. So in order to build a rapport, I walked in the mall and I met this incredible World War II POW who elected to tell me his story, which is pretty unique with our World War II veterans. They're humble heroes that keep it to themselves. And he told me his story, and he allowed us to use artifacts, and we created a DVD as a gift for him and his family. And my daughter sang in the background, and then I got off a plane in April of 2009 in Baltimore and saw an Honor Flight, and here we are.
How was, Phil, how did you hear about the trips that is offered to the veterans?
Well, I heard from it from a retired men's club, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And a fellow by the name of Bob Patrick introduced me to it. And I said, you know, this is, I've been in Washington when I was in business. I was in Washington every week. But I never got the opportunity or had the opportunity to go out to the cemeteries. I did all the institutions and so forth in downtown Washington. But I felt that this was going to be a kind of a landmark operation that would fulfill my whole life. Excuse me. And I took him up on this, and I filled out all of the proper papers and so forth, and turned it into Joe. And to make a long story very short, I was on a flight on the 12th of October last year. Mm-hmm. And the most exciting thing I could ever think of. But I will continue on that a little bit later on, mm-hmm. because there's so much to go talk about, that about the flight and everything. But that's how I became involved with this flight, and best thing I ever did.
Great. Joe, how do you choose the veterans that will be on your next flight? How did you start choosing and giving the opportunity to our veteran to fly?
Well, currently, we're focused on our World War II veterans. We're accepting applications for Korean War veterans, but we haven't got to them yet. And or if they're terminally ill from any war, we transport terminally ill veterans from any war.
Yes. You're, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I read that your oldest veteran was 101 years old.
101 years old, and he walked all day, and he had a fantastic day, and I called him the day after and asked him how he felt about the long day prior, and his exact words were, "I'm still terribly excited about what you did for me yesterday."
That is great. Who contacted you, Joe? Who contacted you? Is it the family member that hear about your program, your business? How do they? Is it the parents or the daughters? I mean, not the parents, obviously, but the daughters. Do they call you and say, "I would like my father, my grandfather, to be next"?
It's sons and daughters. It's a mixture. They have quite a network going amongst each other. It's a lot of word of mouth. That sometimes there's some anxiousness about, the ability to endure the day. And so they'll tell each other, I just had an honor flight and you should sign up for this. And they treat us like our mothers did when we were good kids. And
You had 28, is that correct? 28 flights so far?
821 veterans.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Is there a waiting list? Is there people that are waiting to get on the next one?
There is a waiting list. We have quite a waiting list of World War II vets and Korean vets, and we just love every day that we're with them.
Yeah. How is it for you? How is it that I had the opportunity to be at the VA on June 16. You had a flight, and how is it for you to be in contact with them, to be seeing them, ready to board? How is it for you, Joe?
Oh, it's the emotions are always there.
Yeah.
We just have a great day. It's we hope that they're going to come to somewhat of a closure of what they experienced, and to let them know that we still recognize and will never forget what they did for us, and that's what we hope the day will be.
Yes. How do you? How does that work? How do you gather the police escort and the motorcycle? How is it that you the plan, the format of that day?
Well, I let the police department know what time we're going to be going out from the VA, and they send the cruisers up, and we have an executive escort, and they leapfrog from intersection to intersection, and we never stop at any of the red lights. And the Patriot Guard, I contact the Patriot Guard, who contacts all of the motorcycle escorts and tells them where to be and what time to be there. And they take care of it all.
It's quite a crowd. When I was there in the morning, it was, I think you were there at 4:45 a.m., even maybe earlier than that. There's quite a group for support that are involved, right?
There's quite a group that are there, and Sheila Peters is the one that assists me, and she's assisted me since day one.
Yeah.
She contacted every veteran except one.
Really?
And she was on vacation in Florida for 2 weeks, and I didn't want to bother her, so I called one veteran because we had a cancellation. But other than that, she's contacted all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. When you did your trip in 2012, Phil, can you share with us how it was? Did they wake you up in the morning? Did they put you on the bus? How was your experience?
No, as a matter of fact, I knew ahead of time that what time I had to be there at the VA hospital. And fortunately, 2 of my daughters were there spending the night because they wanted to be part of this. So they drove me up to the airport, actually to the VA hospital. And it wasn't a very delicious day at all. It was kind of rainy, a little bit rain and some fog. But to see the number of motorcyclists that were there, the escort that we had, as Joe mentioned, and all of the volunteers that were around there, doing everything possible to make our trip and everybody in it happy and pleasant and comfortable. The whole flight was from the VA to the airport. It was awe-inspiring, and we were fortunate to have a nice flight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But it was very emotional. Really was, to see all of the people, particularly when you went into the airport. You ran a gauntlet of nothing but flags and people in uniform, not in uniform, but anybody and everybody, and they were all clapping, all applauding. It was just very emotional to see all of this, just for us, you know. I mean, you know.
Well, just for us, I believe that you deserve every moment of it. You mentioned the support and the volunteer that were there. Joe, how do you recruit your volunteers for the team up of Make It Possible?
Well, what we do is we contact the Patriot Guard, who contacts the people that hold our flags, who contacts their friends, who contacts the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and the crowd that comes to the airport, and we're on Facebook, and it's just grown beyond what we could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
Bagpipers. Londonderry
Yes.
Police, you know, there's
Yeah.
a bagpiper from Londonderry Police that plays the bagpipes. And
That flag, though, over the entrance.
At the airport?
that was Londonderry Fire Department. We had a Londonderry fireman, a firefighter that came with us.
Yes.
And he came with us on a trip. His name is Bo, and he decided that maybe we should get our fire trucks together and honor them with a flag. So Manchester and Londonderry, you know, communicated with each other and made it work.
It was a kind of impressive when I drove to the airport, and as we turned the curb, this is the biggest flag that I ever saw, and it was there in October when
Yes, it
when you
was.
were there,
Yes,
right?
It was. Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive, and I can't say enough for, as I say, the volunteers, because they were all volunteers, and gosh, when we went through the under the bridge and up to the access to the airport, there they were, that huge, huge flag. It was very awe-inspiring, as far as I was concerned. I don't know about the other people. I was wide awake.
All the maybe not it's the right word, but the supply, all the flags that are available at the airport that are all piled up that you give to to the support family members and all of that. Where do you get them? Is it there for you to use, or
No,
it's
Patriot
again,
Guard takes care of that. I call the Patriot Guard, and they have someone that takes care of the flags and picks up the flags and gets them to the airport. And we have a police officer named Steve Mangone, who's currently on Manchester, who kind of sets the airport up before we get there. And we have a woman who places the flags and gives the flags out. And it's just, all I do is just arrange the flights, and they take care of it all.
Yeah, right. It was, I saw the woman that you're talking about in the lineup of the curb in the airport. People were just kind of excited to grab a flag and be a part of it, because I don't know, I feel that camaraderie among all the people that are there. Did you feel that when you were there?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it wasn't. It was after we'd gotten into the airport. We sat waiting for our flight, and we had coffee and pastries and so forth, which was very delightful because we had to wait for a while. But you started to talk with other veterans, other people that were on the flight, and just mentioning your name and what were you in? Were you in the Navy? I was in the Navy, the Marines, whatever. And you weren't telling war stories or anything like that, just getting to know one another, that's all. And it was very interesting. And it was terribly, terribly interesting for me to be able to meet other veterans my age, and we just had a very, very nice time communicating with one. There was no problem communicating at all. It was, I mean, it was just like water off a duck's back, really. It was very, very easy to do. And I have to say right at the moment that if I had somebody as a guardian, like I did, couldn't have had a better one. Could not have had a better one. Glenn Williams was absolutely phenomenal. He was so great because he had been there so many times before, but he could take pictures and have you set in such a position that you got the best possible views of anything. And I have pictures to prove it.
Yes, I've seen a few of them that you shared with me.
But with him, without him, you know, it wouldn't have been the same. It really wouldn't.
And just, if you don't mind, if I'll mention Glenn Williams, he's been on 17 flights. We met him in Boston. He works at the Boston airport, and he saw one of our Boston flights go out, the HBO flight, in March of 2010. And he's been with us ever since.
Is he a part also of the, I read that the miniseries HBO, didn't you have something in 2010 that was on the air? What is the story beyond that?
We did. The HBO movie at the Pacific. They actually called us from headquarters to say, you know, can we get 35 World War II vets down to the World War II Memorial? And Tom Hanks is going to speak about the World War II vets. And we had 250 World War II vets from across the country, all at the World War II Memorial at one time. And it was an incredible experience.
That's neat to see how you can reach people and how they respond to in a volunteer way, all on their own to come and join.
And their own expenses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How do you get? I know we'll get a little later on the fundraiser, but how do you? Do they ask, or you feel that they are ready to participate on their own? To join.
We encourage. We call them guardians. We encourage. Sometimes family members will come with their loved ones, or we'll also put. We have medical staff that travel with us, doctors and nurses that come along and pay their own way to be with us, and because we all think it's an honor to be there for the day, so they'll come with us, and we just want to make sure that everybody's safe. We have a wheelchair for everyone that comes with us, whether they use them or not. We do have them because, you know, contrary to popular belief, some of these people are a little bit independent,
And proud.
And very proud. And, yeah, we just so we have wheelchairs and we can accommodate oxygen and stuff like that. So it's a great day for us also.
Yes, I saw the buses that are at your disposition to drive them. It's kind of that impresses me to see how you wheel them into the bus, and then having the everything is so safe, right?
We
to
have
make
a
sure for their
handicap bus
safety.
from the VA that comes along with us, and then Goffstown Truck Center actually donates their driver and their bus for us to be able to do this, and it's incredible the generosity of the people and the businesses that get us through all of it.
Yeah. Can I ask you how it is as soon as you help the veteran on the plane? We don't see that part when we are at the airport. I was able to see the beginning at the VA, then the transportation to the airport, then when they line up. But what's happening behind the gate, after the gate?
Well, they know that we're coming on. They let us on first, and since we have all the wheelchairs, we bring the wheelchairs down with our veterans, and there's no seating order, so we all get on first, and the wheelchairs go underneath the belly of the plane, and then we're the last ones off because there's a little surprise in Baltimore.
Talk to us about us. But first, how is it on the plane? How was your experience?
It was nice. We were able, as Joe said, we were able to pick our own seats and comfortable, and it was nice flight down. And as Joe said, you know, when we hit Baltimore, it was absolutely phenomenal. It really was. I've never seen more people. They're all volunteers, and these people in Baltimore were wearing yellow T-shirts, and they stood out beautifully. But, you know, they were all happy to see us, and they couldn't do, there wasn't much that they could not do for us. They wanted to do everything for us. And they made us very comfortable, very hospitable, and it was just a great flight. And our bus trip down from Baltimore to Washington.
Tell us. I feel like there's something underneath that.
Well, we were fortunate to have not as quite a large escort of motorcycles as we did at the VA hospital, but we had some, and we also had the availability of a park patrolman, park officer, and his dog. And he led the parade, or the bus, all the way from Baltimore to Washington. And fortunately, I have pictures of going down the highway, and cars are going from side to side to get out of the way from us, so that we would go right straight down. And we had that park officer the whole time we were there. And without him, I don't think we would have done as well to see all of the memorials as quickly as we did without the escort of this patrol officer. He was great. It was great.
Yeah.
We actually had two of them. We actually, because it was unexpected, we scheduled the day to go down, and once we schedule it, we aren't going to change the date, so we had it all planned, and then we found it was the DC Marathon that day.
Oh, yes, yes.
And the other problem, the issue that we ran into that day, it was the day of the hurricane.
Oh.
And we knew that if we canceled that day, it'd be another 5 months before we went down again. So in the background, we were calling hotels in case we got stuck down there. And we actually were the last flight out back to Manchester that night. And had we gone into Boston, they had canceled the flight. But we came into Manchester, and we were the last flight out that night. So
really, you made it happen.
yeah.
Yes.
And the police officers that escort us, it's blue lights and siren no matter where we go. And he's right, the traffic parts for us. And the marathon ends at Iwo Jima. And so the runners are going up the drive to get to Iwo Jima to finish. And he got us up to Iwo Jima that day.
You guys are in a really a time how do you say, a time frame.
Absolutely.
So everything that you want to show the veteran, it needs to be confined into a certain amount of hours.
That's exactly right.
If there's a marathon, like you said, you have to go around it. Was there any other kind of little delay that happened during all those flights?
Well, they closed the roads, so having an escort would allow the officer that was stationed there that had the road closed, they'd open it for us to come through, which wouldn't have happened had we not had them.
Yeah. You're laughing, Phil. Is there? Do you have a few memories back there?
No. Well, as Joe said, the Marine Marathon ended at the Iwo Jima Memorial, and as we drove down the highway, there was a huge dump truck right in the middle of the road, the access road that we would have to take to get up to the place. And our park officer got out of his car, and there were a couple of men that were dumping the stuff into the truck. And he got a hold of a couple of policemen there and told, I don't know what he said, but it was just like somebody, hey, moved out of the way, and we went up. And it was just, as Joe said, without them, we would not have been able to do as much as we did in the time allotted us. It was fantastic, it really was. And it was all for World War II veterans, really. And I, for myself, I felt very honored that, you know, to say, gee whiz, gosh, here they are. They're making room for us, you know, and it was just a great piece of work, really.
You, I was speaking to you last week, Phil, and you mentioned that the event, the experience of that trip would be the third most important event of your life, right?
Well, yeah, that's very true. After we had, we were on the bus having lunch, and Joe came on the bus and said, hey, what did you think of this trip? And I said, Joe, it's very difficult to say, because this is a very emotional thing for me. But the marriage to my wife and our kids' births go first. This is third. That's all I can say. It really is, and I mean it. It was quite an experience, really was, and I will never forget it, and I know my kids will never forget it because of the pictures that were taken, and they were a big part of this program for me. I think that some of the pictures obviously prove to be that my kids were a big part of this whole program.
During, I have some photos that you gave me on a disc, and during the show or after, we'll have some footage of,
Fine.
and some photo. You know, Joe, you, hearing Phil talking, you definitely made their dream come true to many of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we kind of feel that some of them came home and never got the recognition they deserved. And they talk about that sometimes, and it's been 70 years since they served, and they're living with these, many are living with the horrific memories. They don't share their stories because they don't think that anyone will understand, and this is their day to be with their comrades, to...
Yes, you're right. In talking with Celine a few days ago, she asked me the same question. I said, we don't talk about it. There's no rhyme or reason. We just don't talk about it. When I say we, I'm talking about World War II veterans. We don't talk about it. Even over a beer or something like that, we don't talk about our experiences. I don't know why. It's just something that we just don't do, or at least I don't do, and the people that the veterans that I know of, they don't talk about it either, and they say the same thing. It's something that we did. We felt we had to do. We did it, and that's it. And I think Joe said it. They wouldn't understand what it was.
When I saw a group of the veterans, the last flight, I understand that verbally you don't express to each other how it was, but I felt like there was a connection and a kind of a silent communication into. You guys look at each other in a way that no words need to be said. Is that correct?
I think to a large degree that's very true. I know that when we were on the buses, we contacted each other a little bit, but more in the Baltimore airport, we were able to contact more people. And that's where I met probably 4 or 5 people. There was one guy, one other fellow was in the Army. The rest were all Navy. And of course, I can't speak as the Navy, but I did have a chat with a fellow from the Navy, and he'd been in for 22 years or something like that. And he was talking about some of the experiences that he had in the Navy, but by and large, we don't. But we did have a bit of cross talk,
Yes.
and it was fun. It was interesting.
Is it the expression that you used when we were talking the other day? You said it's like oil and water. What were you talking about for our audience to know?
Well, when I was at the parachute school at Fort Benning, Georgia, that is the home of the infantry school. And unfortunately, at that time, and I'm talking way back in the very, very early 40s, the infantry school and the parachute school members just didn't get along with each other.
No.
I don't know why, but they felt, I guess the infantry felt that we were glorified infantrymen. Why? What? We jumped out of airplanes? Oh, sure. So what?
Yeah.
But they felt that, gee whiz, you get a lot more credit than we do, and we're kind of the same people. But it was like oil and water. We just did not fraternize with them, if you will.
Your training, or the area that you were, you mentioned that it was not that pleasant experience.
Oh, well, it was in the summertime, and it gets pretty warm out there in Georgia, and it was warm. It was terribly warm, and we did not have white sheets to sleep in every day, like the Navy did. But we did very well. We did well by ourselves, and I don't have any complaints. Wouldn't do anything good if I did, so nobody listens.
No. There was, Joe, a 2008 statistic about the veteran. I know it's kind of a sad note on it, but I need to mention it for our audience. Is that correct, that close to 1,000 of our veterans, unfortunately, died every day. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're leaving us very quickly, about 1,000 a day. They're estimating between 800 and 1,000 a day now, and out of 14 million or 16 million, there's only 1.5 million left, and that's their estimate, 1.5 million to 2 million. So we're in a race against time to get them down there as quickly as we can, and it's not a doom and gloom day, is it?
No, it's not. Oh, no, it isn't. It's really an awe-inspiring thing, and I guess the best way I could explain it, and that's using the words of our teenagers today. It was wicked awesome.
You fly other veterans from other states. Is that correct? You go to, I think, Vermont and Massachusetts.
We were in. They typically come to us. We had our first inaugural flight out of Maine this year,
yes.
and we flew a terminally ill Vietnam veteran whose wish was to see the Vietnam Wall because his brother was killed in Vietnam, and we were able to get him there, and it was quite a day. We had I was able to contact the Changing of the Guard at Arlington Cemetery, and we had a wreath made and with his brother's ribbon, his brother's name on the ribbon, and he passed 47 days later after our flight. So.
This is so.
Speaking about that, at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that was a very, very interesting place to be. But we were fortunate to be able to, after the tour was over there, we had one of the guards come on our bus and tell us all about how he became a guard doing the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Very, very interesting. And it wasn't until afterwards that there was an article in a newspaper about the procedure that each guard takes. And it's very interesting because it emulates the highest honor that the military can be given to a person, which is the same thing as a 21-gun salute. And people, I don't think the general public don't know that, but
Well, I'm glad.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take the time to go through the whole thing, but it's very, very interesting. But the whole trip was, as I say, wicked awesome.
Yes. Well, I was going to ask you, Joe, we'll talk a little bit about how to make the public involved, to make it possible for the next flight. How do you reach, or how would you like the public to know, and how can they contribute to make it possible for the next
Well, they can, if they have a loved one that's a World War II vet, they can go onto our website and download an application at honorflightnewengland.org. It's all one word and all spelled out. They can also donate because we survive on our donations from the public. And if they want to call and if they have questions, it's 603-518-5368.
Great. I will definitely put it on their in the screen when we give at the end of the show. What is next? You mentioned the Korean War veteran as well. Is it something that you're thinking in the future, a little bit later?
We are. We don't want a gap in services to our most senior veterans, so we are taking applications from them. Our next flight that is full is September 28th. We're going out September 28th, and the flight is funded by Ocean State Job Lot. And we're taking a charter flight, and their request, and they're going to make it happen, and it hasn't happened in the history that I know of Honor Flight, is they are going to fund 3 charter flights from 3 states. So it's going to be, we're going to go out of Boston, they're going to go out of Rhode Island, and they're going to go out of Long Island, and we're all going to gather at the World War II Memorial. And they're going to have over 200 veterans and over 400 people total that are going to be traveling that day.
Unbelievable. This is fantastic what you are doing for them. It's greatly appreciated for the veterans. And I think those who are aware. And you know, what I hear today, Joe, is definitely, if I could wrap up one word into this interview from both of you, is gratitude. Yeah.
Well, it's an honor for us.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that the reason that I did it was because I had never been to the World War II War Memorial, and I'd not been to the cemetery at all. But I have to say that every single minute of my time was well spent, and that I will never forget about it. And I have to say this one thing, that it wasn't until we were in the Baltimore airport that I was talking to one of the volunteers there, and she said, Phil, she said, do you know that this organization does not get one dime from the government?
Nothing.
It's all by donations, all by donations. And that's how they do it. All of the hats that they give us, all of the beverages, all of the pastries and so forth at the airports, all of the lunches that we have, the dinners that we have, everything is done by donations. And I can't thank Joe enough and his operation for providing this service to us. Really can't. It's just wonderful.
Oh, I can feel your appreciation, Phil. Joe, before we close, I'd like to know your priority and your goals for the future.
Well, my goal is to get everyone in New England down there as quickly as we can. My biggest complaint, I feel, my biggest complaint is we don't spend any marketing money, so I don't feel people know about it. So as you know, I was in Massachusetts yesterday, and I travel across all of New England to try to get the word out any way we can.
At the airport, you also offered to the veteran a medal.
We do. A coin, yeah.
Yes.
It's right here.
Yeah, right here. Yes, I got it right here. In recognition for the veterans, is that correct? Yeah.
It's very lovely, very lovely. And it says Honor Flight, New England, thank you. And
It's very
It's a
kind.
challenge, Coin.
You've seen this before.
I've seen a couple of those before.
Yeah. But it was absolutely well worth it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every minute was well worth it, as far as I was concerned.
Yes. There's two little story before I let you go. What is the story of the long rider? You had someone, I believe it's in Baltimore. What is the story?
We went down there, and it was, we have motorcycle escorts typically from Baltimore to the World War II Memorial. And it was a cold, rainy day one trip, and one motorcycle came. And it was cold and rainy, and just, I can't imagine how we went through that. So I took a picture of him. And I sent it to him. And he passed. 50-something years old, he passed. And
another veteran that you give.
yeah, he just came out. The only one, a cold and rainy day, all the way from Baltimore to Washington. And I put dedication on the picture, and never knowing that less than a year later he'd be gone.
Yeah. You also, this is a beautiful story. You give the opportunity of some of the veterans that are really, for example, there was a both legs amputee that
We did. We had so far we've had 30 women. We've had a double leg amputee. We haven't refused anybody because of their health. So we take every World War II vet that's applied. We haven't refused anybody. So we try to make it work the best we can. We do some very funny stuff on the bus.
Yes, we do.
They don't anticipate, and it's just contrary to popular belief. Retired police officers have a sense of humor, and we make it a humorous day on the bus, and we do a mail call on the bus, and
Yes. Is there a story you want to share, Phil, about in those buses or over there at the memorial?
No, as a matter of fact, on the bus after we were having lunch, and Joe came and Sheila said, "This is mail call."
Mm. Oh.
And they had an envelope, a large envelope full of mail. How it came about, I will never know. But everybody on the bus, veteran, had an envelope full of mail from relatives, friends, acquaintances, whatever it was. And I think, as I look back on it, I had 18 or better separate pieces of mail from my oldest daughter to my youngest great-grandchild. She will be no Picasso or anything like that, but that's a great picture.
Should give you a little drawing.
Oh yes,
Yes.
oh yes,
Yes.
yes it is.
Yes, I do have a letter that you gave me, and later on during the show I will read it for our audience. It's from your daughter and your 35-year-old grandson.
Yes.
I will take a moment to read this. Well, I would like to thank both of you for your service, for having brought freedom in our country, and we'll definitely, Joe, make sure that the public know about how to participate and how to help the fundraiser for the Honor Flight of New England. And thank you so much.
My
Thank
pleasure,
you.
my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Believe me,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. We had the opportunity to go to the airport to welcome back the veterans from their trip to Washington. I would like to share with you some highlights and also a special interview with one of the veterans. Before I close the show, I would like to read you a letter from Mr. Jacob's daughter, Leslie. For today.
Yes. Well, it was one of the best days I've ever had in my life. Everything was beautiful. The monuments were all beautiful, and the fellows that put it on, and Joe and Sheila did a beautiful job.
Yeah. Lots of emotion there.
Oh, Jesus. Got tears in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, the trip went well in the plane. And
Yes.
Yes.
They did a nice job.
Good. A lot of
And everybody had a good
story.
time. If they ever started with them, it's their own fault.
That's neat. Thank you very much for all the work that you've done. And I'm glad that they took the occasion to congratulate you and to thank you. You have a lot of support here today, right?
Oh, we've had a beautiful, and everything here. Like I say, I had bagpipers down here, and musicians upstairs this morning. Yes, everybody was out this morning.
You were up early, were you?
we had to meet the plane at 4:45.
Yeah. Yes.
We stayed down here in the hotel, Fairfield or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Down there.
Yes. So you are.
So we didn't sleep all night.
No.
My granddaughter and I.
Hi.
She's my chaperone.
She is.
Yeah.
Come next to me a little bit.
That's my grand.
How was your day?
It was wonderful. It was such an honor to go with him today, and it was really special for the veterans, and they're such heroes to all.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a wonderful day.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thanks. Dearest Dad, What a phenomenal honor it is to get to write a letter to a living World War II veteran, and an even more treasured honor to know that he is my father. I am so proud to be able to do this on this memorable occasion. To top it all off, it is the 35th birthday of your first grandchild, and he is so proud to your being honored on his birthday. We all wouldn't be here if it were not from your contribution to protect and serve when you did. You provided us the opportunity of birth and well-being in a beautiful childhood through college, and then for all of us spreading our wings and going our own ways and initiating the cycle of life and family again. And that is being replicated once again. You provided us with the wisdom to get there with all the trials and tribulations that all of us have had the privilege to experience, some of which we might like to forget, but then life would not be complete without the spice that those experiences provided. Be that as it may, the fact that you are here to participate in this honor that is being bestowed upon you and your fellow patriots truly brings tears to my eyes. There are not that many people who can stand here and say, my dad today is a living veteran of World War II. And there is not anyone who is more prouder than I. 70-some old years ago, you did what you had to do, wanted to do, and did do, and we are all here today because of your willingness to contribute. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for all of that, but more important to me is that I, a 60-year-old woman, and your daughter, can't thank you enough for being my dad and being here so that I can once again tell you on this special, memorable day, your day, Daddy. Enjoy the beauty of the sky, the day, your surroundings, the people you are with, and the meaning behind this tribute. I am the proudest American today, and no one can take that away from me. And I have you to thank for that. I love you to the moon and back. Enjoy. All my love, always and forever, Leslie.